Hey, Sean Chandler here, and I am with Cody Leach, and we're here to hear his story about how he got into movies, how he got into YouTube, and how it turned into a brand new career for him. Yeah. I know for me, one of the things that kind of both inspires me and I find most helpful is just hearing other people's stories that aren't detached from me. Like hearing the story of someone with 100 million subscribers, that's so far detached. But someone that had this life experience like mine, that just shared my love of something and then decided to pursue it, hearing how they did that, what they did as a normal person, those are the stories that I find helpful and inspiring. And that's really what I want to do with this series, is kind of share different people's stories. And with that, we started our journeys right around the exact same time as one another. And as of about 6 months back, we're both doing this full time. That's really cool.
It is really cool. It was funny how the planets kind of aligned there. And we have similar stories of false starts too. But yeah, it was like within a month of each other, our channels were kind of the same age, and we had the same growing pains for a little while. You ripped the cast off a little sooner than I did, and went up. But yeah, we had a lot of the same growing pains, all the changes that YouTube went through for a while there with COPA, and now you have to say whether videos for kids or not, like all that stuff. We're the same exact like channel age where we're like, what is this and what do we do, Sean? And you're like, Cody.
But let's rewind. That's what we've been through, and we're both full-time now. Yes. Let's go way back. What's your journey into getting into nerdy stuff, following movies? And as is the case with your channel, you appear to be really into horror movies.
A little bit.
What's that journey for you, the early pre-YouTube? What's your story?
I just always loved movies. I don't know if it's just something that my dad kind of instilled in me. Like, he was a single parent, so a lot of the movies that he wanted to watch, he would kind of have me tag along with. Some people would cringe at that, from dusk till dawn when I was 6 years old, and him having like, oh my God, no. But yeah, I just, from a young age, I always loved movies. I always loved stories, and I always gravitated more towards the more adult stuff. I watched Terminator 2 and Lost Boys and things like that way more than I watched Hunchback of Notre Dame or anything that was coming out that was targeted for my age. As far as horror specifically, when I was like 4 years old, I walked into the room. My dad was watching Child's Play 3, and I remember just seeing the logo melt into plastic, and I was like, that's cool. I want to watch. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, he's killing people. That's crazy. And then from Chucky went to Freddy, and then just, it felt like this, my own little world. Like I was one of the rare kids that knew it was a movie, knew it was fake. And so I never had nightmares. I never had to be, had psychological kind of, any kind of gearing or anything like that, or any kind of trauma. I was just like, oh, that's a doll that's fake, that's somebody behind it's, hey, what's up, I'm Chucky.
But it's fascinating how everyone's wired differently to where some adults, they get freaked out by it. And, I see Doctor Strange 2 a couple weeks back with my wife, and she's like covering her eyes as a grown-up, not wanting to see this PG-13 Disney Marvel movie. And then other people like, yeah, it's just a doll killing people. I'm 5 years old. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're all wired differently. And that's people ask me all the time, like, hey, is this movie appropriate for my kids to watch? Like, that's not for me to decide. Yeah. Everyone is different. Everyone is swayed by different things. Everyone's freaked out by different things. So I can't decide that for you.
Yeah. To that point, whenever I met my wife, she already had 2 kids from a previous marriage, and they were pretty young. And so I was already watching horror, of course. I was in my 20s. And so it was funny to see how my son and my daughter, who are 4 years difference, responded differently. Because like my daughter really took to horror, and she's like, let's watch a horror movie, let's watch Freddy. And then my son, I have a distinct memory where I put on Poltergeist. And then me and Holly went in the other room to go do some stuff, and he was knocking on the door in 15 minutes. It's Freddy! And I was just like, dude, it's Poltergeist. And so, yeah.
My kids are kind of the same. Like, and I guess my son's never been freaked out by a movie, but my daughter's like, yeah, I want to watch that. Can I watch Mad Max with you? Can I watch Poltergeist with you? So she I watched Poltergeist with her, and she's just turned 8. And my son's like, hasn't shown any interest in something.
Call me when you're watching Doctor Strange. Exactly. So it was something that I always loved and was always passionate about, to the point where it wasn't necessarily a bullying situation, but I was kind of known as that movie nerd kid. Like we'd be in the middle of class, 4th grade or something, and the teacher would say something. I'd be like, oh, there's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that says that. And everybody'd be like, oh, again. And so I think it's one of those things where anybody that knew me growing up should not be surprised at all where I am today.
So what's the transition then to, I know you had some false starts, different things that kind of got you thinking in the realm of pre-starting YouTube. What's that phase in the middle?
So when I went to college for a year, dropped out, it wasn't for me. And when I came back home, this was like 2009, I remember discovering Jeremy Johns, discovering Chris Stuckman, and I was like, people are talking about movies on this YouTube thing? That's awesome. I want to do that. And so I started filming my own videos that were horrible. Generic laptop for 2009, built-in webcam, which are never good. So probably 360p or something like that. And I'm like,
nice.
I'm on my couch at an awkward angle talking about Halloween 2 and stuff. So I did probably 5 or 6 videos. The last one that I ever did was A Nightmare on Elm Street, 2010. So that kind of killed my interest. It killed my dreams in more ways than one. So I kind of walked away from it. And then in 2016, I was working construction. I was working materials testing. And so there was a lot of driving, 3 to 5 hours a day average. And so I started listening to podcasts because I got sick of music, listening to AMC Movie Talk and the Schmoes or even audio versions of YouTube videos. And I found myself yelling at my radio because I wanted to jump into the conversation. Like, no, don't make James Bond a woman. What are you talking about? Like things like that. And I'm like, I need to make my own podcast. So I made my own podcast. It was the Cody Leach podcast. Did it on SoundCloud. Did it for like 2 months. Very quickly grew out of it. I realized that I'm never going to do anything with this.
Yeah.
You know, I need to be able to be mobile. I need to be able to do some flashy stuff. My voice might be velvety to me, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be my trip to the stars. So August, we had a little movie called Sausage Party come out.
Classic.
And I said, there's no way I can review this in audio form. And so I locked myself in my room basically for an entire Saturday and taught myself how to use Adobe Premiere and Photoshop, at least enough to get one video out. And probably 6 or 7 different versions of that video. I'm like, why is it letterboxed? Why is it this? And having to figure all that out. And kind of the rest is history from there. There's more to it, but that's how I got started.
You're the one person that can say Sausage Party changed the trajectory of my life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Seth Rogen.
But from there, now we're on YouTube. Kind of, without going into specific details of tactics, strategies, what's kind of that journey been for you in the 2-3 minute version from there to today?
Well, I started off doing the thing that I think probably everybody makes the same mistake, where you jump onto YouTube and you either decide to do what you've seen somebody else do, or you decide to do everything.
Yeah.
And I kind of did a mix of those. I was like, I'm going to have my own version of Movie Talk, and I'm going to do these top 5 videos. I'm going to review every single movie that comes out. And we had Movie Pass come out around the same time.
Yes.
So that allowed that journey a lot more than it would have. And so I'm doing these, I have a terrible laptop. It's taken me 8 hours to do editing on one video, probably a 12-hour render time to do one video that 15 people watch. And so after a while, I'm like, this isn't working. This isn't going to be for me. Then you have trailer reactions where suddenly where everybody was discovering me, and I had to quickly battle that. Eventually found my niche with horror once again. Going back to that when I decided to review, I was going to review Halloween for the first time. There was about 3 or 4 of those movies I'd never seen before, but that was the month that my daughter was born. So quickly that killed my plans of reviewing 10, 11 movies and doing a ranking. So I got 2 movies in, did my ranking, which to this day is still my most viewed video.
So you never know which one it's going to be, and it just happens.
I'm telling you.
You think you would do something totally different if you knew that was going to be the one.
Yeah.
And then it's the one.
Yep. I'm tired and I'm exhausted from having a newborn baby. And I'm obviously just trying to get the video out so I can say I did the video. There's no passion behind what I'm saying, and that's the video that most people have seen.
Yep.
So gotta love how that works out. But yeah, Halloween didn't work out. Months later, I said, you know what? Nightmare on Elm Street's my favorite. Let me start there. So I do that. Very quickly find out that there's a very passionate, fun community in horror. It's one of those kind of smaller communities. You know, it's kind of always been horror and like metal, which are 2 of my big passions, are always kind of like the ragtag group. You know, they're the outsiders. And so people are very passionate. And so right away, I found an audience that likes what I'm talking about. I found an audience that likes my personality, that understands where a lot of my passion is coming from. And I'm actually getting meaningful interaction with people. It's not just good video or do more of these. It's people actually interacting. And
like
so,
care about your thoughts and want to have a back and forth.
Exactly. And so that was kind of the big moment where I realized the direction that I needed to go. And so ever since then, I've always had a focus on horror. I always talk about other things. I never just horror, but I'd say at least 60% of my channel tries to be focused on that community. And so then the growing pains from there was just kind of figuring out how to make the content better. I used to do a lot of these comedy skits that would kind of open up as cold opens, which were amazing for people that got my sense of humor or people that got the inside jokes from the community that I was poking fun at. For everybody that didn't, they're like, why is this guy wasting the first 4 minutes of my life with this video? And so I kind of had to grow out of understanding what I think is awesome is not always what everybody is going to think is awesome. And so there's some growing pains with that, learning how to edit a little bit better, learning how to appeal to the people that are already subscribed, that are already there, but also appeal to people that aren't, which sometimes is a funny way to balance things. And about September of last year, there was about a 6-month period before that where I just started to get really wore down, frustrated, and just tired of the job that I was in. And it seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel as far as that job was concerned. And so where I normally would not have felt comfortable making this leap until I was at least at 100K and was getting a certain amount of ad revenue consistently, I kind of just rolled the dice and said, like, I know what I'm doing. I just need more time to do it. I mean, I was working a job where I woke up at 4 a.m, did a 10-hour minimum shift. I have 3 kids. I have a wife that wants my attention. I got 2 dogs that want my attention. And I was still able to build everything that I built and consistently keep it going with all of that. So if I just take out that 10-hour miserable part of my day, what could I do? And so that was kind of my big dice roll. And the first couple of months were amazing. I've certainly had to learn some things this year since January, learning that there are ad revenue dips that are just part of the journey, and figuring out how to continuously evolve what I do and not just get so stuck in comfort. Like, I've done this for so long, it succeeds. I shouldn't change. Like, especially the last month or so, I've had to figure out that I need to always strive for continuous improvement. And that's kind of the part of the journey that I'm on right now. That last little leg, just crossed 80,000 subscribers. That last little leg heading to 100K, which will be the next chapter.
Big point in telling the story is there wasn't like this moment and there was like, you had this once in a lifetime opportunity where this person wasn't that. It wasn't, you had this one video that got 10 million views on it. It wasn't that. It wasn't any sort of fantastical story. It's just, you're passionate about something and you learned the technical side and then you slowly learned how to get better at it and paid attention to things and you went, oh, these are fun little intros that a group of people like, but how do I appeal to a broader audience? How do I use my creativity, but something that doesn't exclude people? Just that slow process of learning and growing. And that's what I think so many people like need to like learn that on YouTube is it's just slowly growing. It's not waiting for that one opportunity. It's not that one video. It's rarely that. It's usually progressive, evolutionary growth. Like you're just getting a little bit better. And when you look back 2 years ago, you're like, man, my videos 2 years ago, wow. But your videos from a month ago, you're a little bit better now than them. But just over time, you get a lot better.
Yeah, you're always learning. You know, there's never a point, at least not so far. Maybe there's somebody out there that's had this kind of journey, but there's never a point where you're like, I've cracked the code, I've checked all the boxes, now let's just ride it out. And it's never that. As soon as you feel like you've hit it, the code changes.
And that's like for me. So I've been full time for about 3 years now, and I'm still like, I'm going to a YouTube conference 5 days from now. Whole point being like, I need to keep growing. I need to keep leveling up. I need to keep learning better how this YouTube thinks and what's the latest ways that people are using things. And even as a little side little bar for you, in the last month, you've exploded on TikTok. And that's not directly YouTube, but it certainly falls in this idea of your brand on the internet and just figuring out using the latest technology, the latest social media website to expand that influence and figuring out a new thing. And was a bunch of experimentation that led to that. Yeah, absolute accident. I was sitting around and there was always these inside jokes and everything at work about, making fun of your boss or making fun of the things that frustrate you and a lot of the things that piled up that led me to make my decision to go full-time YouTube. And I was literally just sitting at my computer. I'm like, you know what?
this TikTok thing, I never really do. Let me do 3 minutes. Hey, this is a joke. And then I post it. 3 weeks later, almost 3 million views. I'm like, okay, right. A lot of people have the same frustrations that I do, apparently.
and that's the thing of like realizing, like, I haven't cracked the code of it. I had one video that kind of did really well on TikTok with 100,000. For me, 100,000 on TikTok. You've got 30 times that. And yours was repeatable. Yeah. And you had other ones that did really, really like crazy numbers. And that's just paying attention, like learning, experimenting, trying different things. And suddenly you'll find something that works, that you get some traction on it. So we're going to keep talking, put this in a separate video where we're going to dive into your advice, your thoughts on YouTube growth. What was it that you learned, figured out that helped you grow? But we're going to do that in the next video, whichever camera I should be looking at right now. So come back to check that out. You kind of learn his tips, his tactics for how to get from wherever you are to wherever you want to be.
Awesome.
See you then.